Hi everyone, welcome to I'm All Right. My name is Lisa Robertson. I'm a writer of both fiction and nonfiction and an editorial director as well. That means I work with writers every day, kind of coaching them up. And that's what this YouTube channel is all about. It's about giving writers that are new or aspiring kind of the skill set and mindset they need in order to take their writing to the next level. This week we're doing a series on kind of the 7 critical elements you need to focus on in your novel in order to make sure that it lives up to all its potential. What I mean by that is if these 7 things are right, are good, your novel is going to kind of automatically be good by default. So it's really important that you focus on these things. And what we're going to do in this series this week is give you not only what the thing you need to focus on is, we're also going to give you some things within that are super critical, kind of points underneath the overarching theme, right? And then I'm also going to try to give you some examples from well-known fiction that I think really demonstrate how to do it right. So you can kind of go through and examine that as well. Okay, so yesterday we talked about plot and how plot informs everything within your novel. And that's true. The plot is your novel, right? It is your novel from A to Z. So it's super important that you handle all those elements within it really well. We're going to talk about something else today I think is often overlooked, but I think is almost equally important to the plot because it establishes so much about your novel, and it's so critical to making it rich. This is really how really talented writers level in and layer in a lot of new and nuanced things, and that is through the setting. Okay, the setting of your novel, of course, is where it takes place, when it takes place. And there's a lot of things within setting that we can look at here, and that's what we're going to try to do today. Obviously, your setting involves where it's happening, when it's happening, the geography of where it's happening, the time, both like if it's happening in the 1850s or now or 50 years in the future, if it's happening on a planet or in the desert or in a jail. All these things are very important, right? The where, the when, the physical area that it's in, the things that inhabit that space, the things that your characters encounter, weather. That's super important too. Is the rain a constant element? Is the heat overbearing? Is it so cold that these characters have to stay inside and huddle together? All these things inform your setting, and they're really important things to consider and to think about, okay? So I'm going to try to give you an example of fiction that I think handles this really well. First, let me back up a little bit and kind of tell you why I think this is so important. If your novel is set like in a barren wilderness, and that desolation is going to really impact and influence how these characters interact. That's why it's so important. If your story is set in this loud, claustrophobic prison cell that happens between 2 people, right? If it's in another planet where nothing that really exists in our world actually exists. All these things go to setting your setting. Okay, so that's why it's so important. I'm going to give you an example from fiction that I think almost everyone is familiar with, and that is the Harry Potter series. I think it's really important for 2 ways. Not only is it so nuanced and so vivid and memorable the way she handles the wizarding world, kind of how she establishes how Diagon Alley is and how Hogwarts is, and kind of this wonder in the initial books that these kids are discovering through this magical world, and then kind of the dark and sinister tone that the world takes through as the series progresses. That's all important, but I think it's also equally important for you to look at it because of how she handles it differently. She handles describing the magical creatures and the schools and all the otherworldly things that they encounter very differently than how she handles describing real world London or wherever, England, where they are, because that kind of exists and it's easy for people to relate to that. So while it's important to establish it, you don't have to do it as much as you do when you're world building something that doesn't exist. So world building can look very different, but it's so important. The setting is really key to deepening and making your plot making your novel the best it can possibly be. So I hope that's helpful to you. We've covered 2 of our 7 topics now, plot and setting. We'll cover another tomorrow. Until then, I hope all your writing goes well, and we'll see you soon. My dog is barking. I think he wants outside. My cat is meowing because she's hungry. So sorry if I sound a little distracted today. Thanks. Bye.